So we've got lemmings running around, we've got dead walruses and dead whales, and we've got lumps of wood. And are we really suggesting that all that life is existing on a Martian atmosphere with less than 1% of the Earth's atmosphere and carbon dioxide? It's not an atmosphere that can support life like on Earth. So where are these images really being taken?
It makes you wonder.
All right, we'll come on to the next image, which is, as I said, what appears to be a lump of wood.
That's it.
You were aware of this image, Andrew?
Yes.
Before you've seen the document, yeah.
Yeah, I mean this particular image, I'd used this in several presentations I'd done in 2000, probably 2005, 2004, that sort of time period. Not long after it had come out, I saw it posted on the internet for him, and it looks like a lump of 3x2. You know.
And this has come from the Opportunity rover.
Yeah, and it's in a panorama image that you can find. But again, it's a black and white image. Why aren't they giving us colour? As we were saying earlier on, that's
a plank of wood.
Yeah. Let's see. One of the other places, if they are using very remote places on Earth to fake it, one of the other likely locations would be Svalbard or Spitsbergen.
This is another test site.
Where they've also tested lots of Mars rovers, done lots of development work, and on Spitsbergen there are indeed quite a lot of old railway sleepers that have been washed up because there's been a lot of mining on Svalbard over the centuries.
All right, so that could be from some sort of railway sleeper, because if you were to hazard, it doesn't look like a fallen tree. It looks like it's been.
It looks like a cut sleeper.
Andrew said a piece of 3x2.
Yeah.
What is the deal with these? Why are we getting so many black and white images? You've got phones in your pocket that take high resolution digital colour images. Why are we not getting these images from Mars?
Yeah. Okay. And another black and white image we have here, which is from the Spirit rover image, got the reference there, which appears to show lichen.
Yeah.
It just looks like lichen. What else can it be?
Now again, if that was in colour, it'd probably be absolutely conclusive that was lichen. And we've got an image there which is comparing it to lichen on Earth, and lichen is this sort of parasite which grows on other things.
Sort of like a type of fungus, algae type of thing. I mean, the botanists, I'm sure, will pick me up and they'll tell me it's not a fungus and it's not an algae, but it's that type of growth. It's not. It doesn't really have flowering leaves or anything like that. It grows on rocks primarily. You don't really notice it growing in soils and that.
There are some kinds of lichen that actually grow in the little gaps in the rock, which you can see. And then there's a nice round one growing on the surface. I don't know exactly what the different subspecies of lichen are.
And now we come on to images of fossils.
One of the ones that Charles Schultz mentioned, which he says is a crinoid, but far more compelling really is a man called Richard Hoover, who's studied fossils all his life and worked for NASA for 40 years, and he says it is absolutely definitely a crinoid.
Right. So the guy who's working for NASA, is he therefore saying that there's crinoid fossils on Mars, or what's he saying? Or is he saying they're fooling us with images from Earth? Does he make a judgment on that?
No, he doesn't.
Right, he just says it. Okay.
Perhaps he's worried about his pension.
People who are experts on fossils have looked at this image and can conclude that it's a crinoid fossil. And we've just got it next to a crinoid fossil there, and you can see the similarities with these sort of ridges.
Isn't the logical conclusion that the photographs are coming from the Earth rather than Mars? Because these are Earth species of fossils. I think the best one was a crinoid.
Yeah, I mean, this is something, again, I became aware of on Charles Schultz's site, or one similar to this. Might not have been this exact image, but he had some similar images, and I've shown them in some of the talks that I've done with trilobites. And there's one that looks like a fossilised octopus that he had as well. So there's a number of these images that, and he points out, as we were saying earlier, that he'd gone through hundreds or even thousands of these images, and they're just like tiny little portions of the image. that he's picked them out from. They're not like really big, so he's had to spend a lot of time looking for them.
So Charles Schultz has written a book called The Fossil Hunter's Guide to Mars, and he contends that the Martian service is got a lot of fossils on it. Therefore, there's at one point on the Earth there was microbial or life,
complex
not
life
microbial
as well,
life, but life.
Yes.
And what we're saying in this hypothesis is, well, hang on, if someone showed you one of Charles Schultz's images, which appears to show a trilobite or a crinoid fossil, what would you think it most likely an image from? Maybe it is taken from Earth.
It's certainly possible.
Okay, now let's look at this next image, which shows a moving rock. So we've got this is from the Spirit rover. We've got one image which shows a collection of rocks, and then another image taken at a different time from a slightly different angle of the same group of rocks, and we see that there's a rock which has completely disappeared.
Right.
Which we do get sandstorms on Mars, but
well, this is it. I mean, we've already been talking, and we're going to talk probably more about the atmosphere on Mars, and I've already said it's very thin. It's much thinner than on the Earth, so therefore any winds that are running on Mars, that are blowing on Mars, they're going to be much less kind of force on objects on the ground, because the air
less
is
than
thinner.
1% the thickness of the Earth atmosphere.
Right.
So it's not going to be able to blow a rock over.
Not really. So you have a problem with that idea of this just being blown over or whatever it is.
This one's not quite so compelling. The pictures do seem very strange. But you can argue that the apparent movement of the rock is a parallax effect. That one of the rocks is actually standing quite a distance behind the other ones.
Right.
For me, again, it's more interesting because I'm pretty certain they've used CGI to hide something. The rocks themselves look quite bizarre.
All right. Now there is another image that I've included in the document, which is an image of the Curiosity rover, and it's a self-portrait. So the question to be asked is, how did the thing take a photograph of itself without seeing the arm of the camera? Now NASA have come up with an explanation for this one, and that is that there was 55 images stitched together, which made that image, and that would also possibly explain why the rocks in the background appear different on two different shots.
No, it's just too perfect. No one's quite managed to perfect the process of producing mosaics. NASA claim that they've produced some software to produce a perfect mosaic, and also none of the 55 images, which could only have been taken by the Marley lens, MAHLI, the Marley lens on the end of the robotic arm. None of those 55 images actually appear anywhere on NASA's own raw image database. And also the NASA claimed that the mosaic was actually put together by an amateur astronomer, which seems to be a clever way of avoiding accountability.
And now we come on to another major area of evidence, Andrew, which is the colours on Mars.
Absolutely.
The first craft or lander was the Viking mission, and I think it was the first photograph that it sent back was image PIA 00563, which showed a blue sky and a very slightly reddish or brown foreground. NASA then said, oh well, we've made a mistake with that image, the sky isn't that colour, this is how it is. So the official images, or the revised images, is seen below there, which is just completely red. So what do you make of that, Andrew?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've seen many of these images now, and probably talk about one or two more, and that story of the image coming through is told by Richard Hoagland, and he said that when the image first came through on the monitors, it had like this bluish, greyish, or greyish blue, perhaps I would say, sky colour, and then somebody said, oh no, that's not right, because the dust is very thick there, and we better recalibrate this image. And they twiddled all the knobs, and lo and behold, the sky went red.
NASA's explanation why they changed that image was that there was suspended dust in the atmosphere. So they're saying that first image wasn't right because there was suspended dust in the atmosphere, so they've corrected it to the second one.
And how would they know? How would they know at that point so early on?
As we'll see, NASA have been changing the colours of their images on Mars.
There's this argument been running for years about whether the sky is really red, because they can they can take a picture using the blue filter and tell us it was taken using a red filter. So then when we replace the red back into the picture, it looks like the sky's red when it never was.
This is from Spirit. They have actually a colour calibration module which has 4 lobes on it, and those should be blue, orange, green and brown in that image, and that's how you tell whether the image is calibrated correctly. Just tell us about that, Andy.
Yeah, so we see this on a couple of and we saw this with some of the Viking images as well, where you have this colour calibration chart, and you know, you can see that these panels which were blue on Earth have turned red when they're on Mars.
Right.
Now this is not possible by reflected light. You can't, if you have a blue piece of paper or a blue piece of paint and you shine red coloured light onto it, it's not going to show up red. It's going to become like a muddy grey or something. But in these images it shows up red. And so what should be muddy grey shows up red, and that to me shows that there's been colour substitution of the blue colour range for a red colour range.
This is fairly well accepted with a lot of researchers, that they are messing with the colours on Mars, and they're deliberately making the sky look red and the ground look more red.
Yes, I mean we can say that it's Gil Levin. He said this with analysis he's done. He designed one of the Viking experiments. Holger Isenberg, Goro Adachi. You know, I've looked at this as well. But there's been a number of people that have pointed out these anomalies.
And of course there's 2 explanations, obvious explanations. The first is that the Martian sky is blue and they're trying to hide that fact and make it look red, or it could be that the images weren't taken on Mars, they were taken on Earth, and the reason why they made them look red is so that they don't look too much like the Earth.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the researchers who've said, hey look, the Martian sky is blue, I think they could be barking up the wrong tree.
It's possible.
We're placing far too much faith in JPL and NASA, and I think we only need to look at their background to decide whether they're really trustworthy.